So I've had experience with both.
Mm.
There's a benefit on one hand to use one solicitor company or conveyancing company
Yeah.
that has an office in every state and territory,
Mm-hmm.
because they quite often are centralized, meaning that they've got an electronic or a website or a digital platform that allows for signatures, and
Mm-hmm.
then any originals that need to be sent in, they're usually sent to either a PO box or to a delivery address that
Yes.
is
Exactly.
monitored all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, using a larger company that's Australia wide might be of benefit to you.
Uh-huh.
The other thing that people don't think about is if you go for the solicitor or conveyancer specific to the territory or specifically to that state,
Yeah.
they actually have relationships with the other solicitors that you're negotiating with.
Okay.
So one of the things that I heard this example on Saturday, 2 days ago. Um, there was a purchase of a property where the settlement was delayed, and the buyer had told the seller, or it was negotiated beforehand, that after settlement, the house was going to be bulldozed, knocked down, and demolished, and a brand new house was to be built in that area. Because of the delay in the settlement date, obviously everything had to be changed to the new date after settlement had occurred. But one of the
Mm.
parties along the way wasn't informed. So the house was demolished while it was still owned by the other person. So nobody was living in it. It was vacant. Nobody got hurt. But one day before the new settlement date, the bulldozer came and demolished the house. And the vendor, the person selling, noticed. They didn't live in the house, but
I
either one of their
noticed.
neighbors told them, or they noticed that before settlement, something had happened that was not supposed to have happened. So,
Oops.
oops, that's right. So, if if you have two parties where the solicitors don't know each other, there can be a
Ah,
screaming match. It can go to the
yeah.
newspapers and television and the internet. You can imagine the type of scenario that could
Yeah.
have been built out of this nothing. I mean, really,
Bulldozer.
the settlement was
Mm.
for the next day anyway,
Mm.
and the
Yes.
house was going to be
Yes.
demolished one day
Yes.
later
Yes.
anyway. So when one solicitor calls the other one and says, yes, we're still going to buy the house, even though the house is demolished, we don't need the bank to approve that the demolished house is actually there,
Yes.
etc. So as long as there's a conversation between the two parties and it doesn't escalate into a conflict where it doesn't need
Oh
to
my
be,
God, you bulldozed
then,
the
you know,
house.
exactly. I mean, it doesn't
Mm.
really matter. It's one day's
No, it
difference.
was, yeah.
Legally, it matters if the bank says, we're letting you buy this house and you haven't told the bank you're going to bulldoze the house. That's a different story. But if you're using a
Mm.
local conveyancer and a local solicitor, there's a chance that they know the other side's solicitor and conveyancer, and
Ah,
quite there's normally a more civil conversation if things that are unexpected happen.
yes.
Um, but as long as the company you're using is licensed in the state or in the territory that you're using,
Yes.
and there is a way to check that through Google, through the internet,
Yes.
most states have a list that
Sure.
say this license is valid, et cetera, et
Current.
cetera. So it makes sense to check the
Mm.
currency and the type of license the person that you're using has.
Definitely.
But look, whether you're using a national or you're using a local, it shouldn't make a difference. It's only personal preference.
Mm.
And if you're doing a large portfolio of 10 to 20 properties and you're doing a transaction every 2 months or 3 months, sometimes it makes sense to use the national, because if they're in different
Yes.
states and different territories, you get a good idea of how their system works. So
Mm.
it's just easier for you to do the same thing on your
Yes.
second, your third, your 15th property, etc. If you're only buying one every 2 years or 3 years, or you do a property transaction twice in your life, perhaps choose a local that'll tell
Mm.
you the
What?
local way things are done.
Mm.
But no, there isn't a hard and fast rule, and I've
Mm.
found both of them are quite good, as long as you find somebody who has good reviews and a
Yes.
reputable company.
Absolutely. Absolutely.